that statement. Trump's hand-picked FCC chairman went on a podcast and suggested ABC's broadcast license or affiliates could be at risk if they did not suspend or fire Kimmel.
Here is a lot more similar to McCarthyism or the Red Scare, where again, anyone at any given time can be said to be part of Antifa, right? Like, do you absolve or do you condemn the acts of Antifa? Absolutely. I would never ever say that I'm an anti-fascist, right? And yet, here's a video clip that we have of you at one point saying that fascism's bad. So do you think fascism's bad? Because that would make you anti-fascist.
Which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be
So this happened yesterday. I've already seen a tweet by Tim Pool today. It's like, man, at this rate, we're going to be seeing people getting arrested by next week. It's just like fucking all these people who were talking so much about authoritarianism and their idea of fascism suddenly are just frothing at the bit to see it take place because they think it'll never happen to them, which is, you know, just kind of the calling card of the rube. All of the people along the way, especially all of the fucking, oh God, the pick-me's. I wonder how is that working out for you? Are you feeling safe? Is every pick-me feeling like you're nice and protected as things get worse and scarier and the walls are closing in kind of shit? But yesterday when it was announced that Jimmy Kimmel was canceled due to FCC pressure, which means that it's direct government pressure. I know there was a lot of American accounts online that were saying, Lance is a Canadian, you don't understand, ABC is a private corporation, this has nothing to do with the government. I was like, what does the F in FCC stand for? Like, oh my God. I get it. Like, the only country in the world, whenever you, like, call them out on their shit that gets mad in that way usually is America. I find, like, when I talk about Australia or New Zealand, or when I talk about Chile, or I talk about Argentina, when I talk about any of these countries, I usually have people in the comments or people even in the chat live sometimes from those countries be like, oh, neat, we're being talked about. Yeah, I want to hear this Canadian spin on this topic. But when it's Americans, all of a sudden, especially right-wingers, I'm not talking about the rest of you. You guys are beautiful and wonderful. I'm just saying when it's right-wingers, all of a sudden it's like, you don't understand how our country works. Our country is based on freedom, and this is freedom. And then I'm like, all right, but you understand that this is a horrifying precedent, right? Like, if this is something that can be done in your country, where all of a sudden the executive branch, where you have state power that is able to influence corporations to take out comedians, we're talking about comedians, whether or not I like them, by the way, I do not. Can we be completely clear about this? Jimmy Kimmel is a wanker. All right? He fucking sucks. The guy is just a fucking piece of shit. I don't find him funny. You know, years of being a misogynist, doing fucking weird ass sketches in the fucking The Man Show, fucking doing blackface, all this other shit. Anyways, he became a good lib. And when he was a good lib and he was making fun of Republicans, that was enough for a lot of people to embrace him. But for a lot of libs, he's their guy. And you got to understand that right now, this is a radicalizing moment for a lot of libs. And hopefully, for all the libs who are being, and you see the blue waves and all that kind of stuff, for all of them, please start to get to steer them in a polite way, you know, in a wonderful, cozy, lefty way. You don't have to get in there and, you know, tell them, like, I fucking told you so. Because that's not going to win people over. But honestly, here's the mirage, all right? This is not new, by the way, the authoritarianism of corporations under capitalism, all right? You have but to look to how the left explains this stuff if you want to know the actual truth behind the scenes, because a lot of other people will be telling you all this bullshit. On the right, you will get conspiracy theories. You will get that there is a shadowy cabal of elites who pull all the strings and meet in the Davos group and once a year with George Soros is funding, usually anti-Semitic bile, all that kind of shit. So that's what you're going to get on the right. But the actual material analysis of what is happening, there is fewer and fewer companies in the United States. At this point, there's only about 5. And then by the time I finish the sentence, there's 4 now. Oh my God. But that's just how it works when there is corporations are effectively buying one another out, and then they start to cannibalize one another. And then this is what has happened over the years. I mean, back in the time of, I think around, well, Reagan, it would have been closer to like 30 or 40. And then under Clinton, it's closer to 20 to 15. And then now we're down to about 5 major corporations controlling all of the entertainment. Meanwhile, because tech was relatively new, you know, became very, very popular, especially in the 90s and onward. I'm talking about like the internet-based media and stuff like that, and especially once digital video and the ability to have better encoding, suddenly to popularize a lot of what is considered new media, social media, etc., and streaming media is done on the internet. While still, there is only about 5 corporations that control the majority of that as well. So we've got in total a very, very small amount of companies that control all of this. And for the longest time, lot of people were buying into this myth that these companies were liberal because a lot of these companies were providing a lot of liberal entertainment. All of the late night talk show hosts were usually liberal. A lot of them. The big exception to the rule became Fox News, as Fox News started to become one of the most dominant late-night networks until it became the dominant late-night network in terms of getting your mainstream news sources at night, in large part due to the fact that, again, a large amount of the demographic who actually watch late-night TV have been skewing older and older as younger generations just go to the internet for a lot of their news. But make no mistake, it doesn't matter whether it is, the big tech-controlled streamers like myself, people who are on Amazon networks like Twitch, or people who are on Alphabet networks like Google's YouTube. It doesn't matter where you are. They were never distinctly liberal institutions or liberal companies, even if they in some cases donated to Democrats. That was because Democrats were good for business. That was because for a long time the Democrats, and under Obama and then prior to him with Clinton, but the partnerships that were being made with the Democrats and big tech ensured that that was basically their side of the funding aisle. That big tech was on board with the Dems because the Dems do not fuck with the bag. But things got worse and worse and worse, and a lot of those companies start to again cannibalize one another. And as that happens, you start to realize, holy shit, these are monopolies. We might need to start investigating them. If you have someone else who comes along, someone like Donald Trump, for example, and starts promising a completely different road. Hey, by the way, you can drop the act. Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg, all of you. You don't have to pretend to be woke. You don't have to pretend to care about gay people. You don't have to pretend to care about black people. You can go anti-DEI. You can go anti-woke. You can go anti all that shit with me. I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to fuck with you. In fact, if anything, I'm going to let you guys make more cash. That's what I'm on board with. Come over here, one by one, kiss the ring. You got to show allegiance. I still want you to beg like fucking dogs. Get on the ground. Get on your knees and kiss my fucking ring. Again, there you go. Good. Beautiful. And now, if you give me, and gifts. I want gifts. Come on, Tim Cook, gifts. I want come on, give me something golden. Nice, beautiful, nice golden watch. All right, it's cool. So now that you have pledged allegiance to your emperor, you can get out there and you can do whatever the fuck you want. Yeah. Do you want to have to worry about, having terms and safety, keeping kids safe? Do you want to worry about protecting minority groups, stopping hate speech, all that kind of stuff? Isn't it boring? Isn't it tiresome? Trying to stop the rise of Nazis on your platforms. Look at Elon Musk. The guy is untethered. People do whatever they want on there. It doesn't matter if they're sexual predators, child predators. That place is just a playground for the worst vile filth on the internet, and he's still allowed to operate. What about you? I mean, I'm not going to restrict you. I'm not going to put any restrictions. I'm going to help you out. All you got to do again is pledge allegiance to me, and then get out there, and then all of a sudden, whoa, what is going on here? This is so weird. All of these networks that I thought were or these companies, these tech companies, I thought were at least liberal leaning. Certainly not leftist, for sure. I mean, these are billion-dollar companies. They're not leftist, but they were liberal at least. They cared about some human values. They cared about at least trying to pretend that they protect minorities, or cared about protecting vulnerable groups in both their social media platforms and stuff like that. That they would attack and go after things like hate speech and try and stop the proliferation of white supremacy or incel violence or misogyny and stuff like that. Well, they all just drop it, and then along comes Mark Zuckerberg on the Joe Rogan podcast, just being like, yeah, so I don't give a fuck. Yeah, Joe's like, cool, bro. Yeah, I don't give a fuck either. Cool. This is neat. This is woke is dead. Woke is dead. Neat. Woke is dead. All right, fine. So now that woke is dead, and we live in a world in which the far right and the fascists seem to have the megaphones and seem to be as loud as they want to be. They're now doing everything that they said they would not do. They're effectively revealing their hand. None of them gave a fuck about free speech. I mean, I was telling everyone that the entire time, because what they were defining as free speech was not free speech. There is no free speech under a corporate fucking structure. Every time we've been having this endless fucking tiresome debate, it doesn't matter if I'm having this debate with right-wingers or left-wingers. If you want to watch a really fun one with some people I love, by the way, me and the Vanguard debated this very, very, spirited. We were yelling at each other, but I was trying to explain to everyone, under capitalism, under a capitalist structure, companies are dictatorships. They are. It's how they operate. There is very little freedom for the workers in these companies. And under these dictatorships, these CEOs, these boards, or even the Trust and Safety Commission that they hire, but they can fire at any given time, but they decide what is or what is not considered in their own company and their own platforms free speech. And as long as we've been doing this and giving them the ability to decide that, well, guess what? If it turns out that they don't give a fuck about minorities anymore, they don't give a fuck about protecting any people anymore, really bad shit can happen. And you can see that in the example, the hyper extreme example of Elon Musk running the racist transphobic network that he does. But now you're starting to see it in these mergers where it turns out that, wow, Paramount, CBS are very, very pro-Zionist, or they're very, very pro-Israel, or they're very, very pro-right-wing or U.S. imperialism in terms of what the direction they want to head into. And now all of a sudden you're going to see more and more of all of a sudden these cherished institutions that used to be what we considered to be liberal institutions. Well, a lot of them are just like, we're going to be moving in a direction that we want to move in, and we're going to, again, try and focus and work in a direction that's going to make us the most profit. And we would like to be untethered as we continue this process. It looks like Donald Trump doesn't care. Donald Trump and the far right, or fascists or authoritarians, they are good for business. That's the message that he has been signaling. They are terrible for the working class. They are terrible for your grocery bills, for your rent, for your ability to actually live in society. That's going to become increasingly worse because everything is being transferred over to the hands of the wealthy. That's the entire way that this works. And as he assumes and grabs more control, what a surprise that the very taxes that you spend every single year to be able to power that government, he's using to transform into his Gestapo. That money that you're spending, that you're giving to the government, is going to be used and transformed into creating the ICE agents that are going to target you on the streets. That's fascism. That's how this entire thing works.
Beauty.
Let me just take a quick look. Here, Chris Hayes.
From New York, I'm Chris Hayes. When Stephen Colbert announced that his late night show was being canceled back in July, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, had a chilling reaction.
Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they get, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon. You know that.
They're next. I hear they're going to be going. Well, tonight, an ABC spokesperson confirms that Jimmy Kimmel's late night show has been preempted indefinitely. Now, it comes just hours after a large set of ABC affiliates announced they would refuse to air Kimmel's show. They say because of comments the late night host made on Monday night relating to the motives of the man that shot and killed Charlie Kirk, wrongly suggesting the killer was part of the MAGA movement. He was not. Nexstar, the largest owner of local stations in the country, came out and said it, quote, strongly objects to recent comments made by Kimmel concerning the killing of Charlie Kirk and will replace the show with other programming in its ABC affiliated markets. And if that were the whole story, he said something, it was not correct, the affiliates pushed back, well, then that would be one story. But that, of course, is not the whole story. Okay? Because crucially, just hours before that statement, Trump's hand-picked FCC chairman went on a podcast and suggested ABC's broadcast license or affiliates could be at risk if they did not suspend or fire Kimmel, essentially issuing an order saying, and I quote him here, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way." Well, hours later, ABC made the announcement that Kimmel would indeed be taken off the air indefinitely. And this is just the latest chapter in Donald Trump's ongoing campaign to crack down.
Kimmel said the shooter was MAGA. So first off, we have to be clear about a couple things. Kimmel's a comedian. He's doing a routine. These are stand-up jokes, right? Like, I'm not saying, and I've said this many, many times, and I will still stand by this principle. If you're a comedian, what you're joking about can still be attacked. And like for every single fucking, cancel culture comedian who are all silent right now, I might add, that's kind of fucking weird, isn't it? That all the people who spent all day railing on about how, oh, you can't say anything anymore. I can't even fucking talk about how dehumanizing I want to fucking be towards trans people without getting canceled by the cancel culture mob. First they come for you. Oh, now look at that. Oh, I can't wait to talk about this for 2 hours on my fucking new Netflix special where I talk about how fucking, subhuman trans people are for 2 hours. And then afterwards talk about how I can't say anything because of cancel culture. All these dudes, mostly white fucking straight dudes who are millionaires, who have massive shows, huge ass podcasts, and all they want to do is vilify minorities all day. I can't even say the slurs I want anymore without people saying things back at me. They're saying that I'm a racist. Well, fuck you. I'm gonna complain about that in the cancel culture tour Netflix special. It's just like, well, suddenly all of you are silent. Weird. funny because, now you're actually seeing state intervention, it would appear, right? Like there's a lot of evidence towards this being different. All of the examples that the right are pushing out there, like Roseanne, holy shit, is this ever fucking ridiculous to see someone like Roseanne suddenly be like, wow, doesn't really fucking feel good when the state intervenes to have you kicked out of ABC, does it? Trump was the president when you were kicked out of ABC. And it wasn't Trump that intervened. I'm sorry, what is this fantasy world you're all living in? So many examples have been given by the right where it's like, well, what about when this happened? Here's the list. What about when Piers Morgan is British, first off. And when he left the network he left in Britain, he quit. But he did get a lot of pressure, I'll give you that, for his racism towards Meghan Merkel. But these aren't examples of the things that you're talking about. Again, this is maddening. The reason this specific instance is frightening is that, yes, you are correct. ABC, aka Disney, is a private corporation that has a right to do what they want. They can decide of their own accord, because this is the problem with having these multinational corporations have all this fucking power. Whenever they want, if they suddenly decide, you know what, we're gonna go a little fashy now, you could be like, wait, what? Yeah, and you can't stop us, because we already own everything. We own The Simpsons. We own fucking Star Wars. We own Marvel. We own it all of it. We got all the franchises, all of your beloved things that you want to watch. You watch it, you're gonna be supporting our desire to actually make a lot of our sub-networks and a lot of the other franchises that we own fashy. We're gonna do that now. We can do that. It's awesome. We can go out and do that. So enjoy it. So have fun with that. It sucks. It's scary and it's brutal. But the actual reality on the ground here is that we have a new instance. If there is state intervention, if there is pressure being applied by the Trump government to silence his political opponents, that's authoritarianism. These are the hallmarks of fascism. I mean, this is basically some of the final railguards that were left, that were in place, was that in America, in the freedom-loving, fucking gun-toting, the red, white, and blue, you still had the freedom to make fun of your leaders, right? That's what separated you from monarchies. That's the entire purpose of the First Amendment to the Constitution. Shall we speak of the First Amendment to the Constitution? It says that the government shall not pass laws that infringe. That's the government shall not pass laws. That's a very crucial part of this. And again, public assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of the press. These are important things. It's always been a hallmark of like the non-authoritarian countries, and then the U.S. loves to make fun of other countries, where you can make fun of the president. You can't say that I'm going to assassinate him. You can't say here's how I'm going to do it. You can't do any of that kind of fucking shit. That's true. There are still limits to the freedom of speech within the bounds of the law. But you can say that he's doo-doo caca. You can say that he's orange man bad. You can make fun of him, right? Because again, these people are not monarchs. They're supposed to be democratically elected. So go forth and make fun of them was the idea. But now we're in a really, really frightening time where it seems, and I'm saying this even as a Canadian, because guess what? My livelihood is dependent on American corporations. Whether I like to admit it or not, I'm still beholden to whatever Alphabet and Amazon decide on any given day is or is not acceptable speech. So if tomorrow it seems like they suddenly say that, hey, by the way, a whole bunch of people who went on their shows and didn't say that Charlie Kirk was a saint, was a moderate, was a holy man, and should be venerated as such, if you're not going to say that out loud, or you're going to say anything other than that, or you're going to play clips of him speaking, or you're going to play some footage of him speaking, you're going to have your account deleted. You're going to have your channel deleted. Or you're going to face really serious repercussions. Or we're going to take down your channel. And guess what? If it doesn't start with just one or two big creators, right, it could be a situation where all of a sudden these big tech companies start to once again get pressure applied to them by Trump. He doesn't even have to demand it. He can just get his FCC chair to start applying pressure to these various companies. And yes, there's different purviews they oversight. I know that there's differences between them overseeing federal, networks. Cable networks is different, and obviously there's different things that oversee what happens in tech and stuff like that. But still, if he approaches, and he's had many table sittings with all the leaders in big tech. You've seen the one where he's at a dinner table with fucking Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, all these people. If he's in that dinner table and he's sitting there, and all of a sudden he's like, by the way, I would really like it, and I would really like it, as in, I want you to do this. If every single one of you could start going after any single content creator that talks shit about Charlie Kirk in his honor. Because as the big old proponent of free speech that he was, this is what he would have wanted: you to silence any single person who has the audacity to say things like that he's divisive, or to play his own words and say his own words out loud. Any of that should be grounds for termination. Yeah, I would like that. I would really like that. And you to do that for me is a request I am making, very emphatically and clear. And that's the direction that we're headed in right now. And so again, yes, of course, it's going to become, and this is going to be, by the way, a global problem. It's not just going to be Canadians who also depend on these American corporations to be able to broadcast our shows. It's going to be people in every single country that uses, again, a very small amount of tech companies that control everything. Uh-oh. Yeah, we didn't think about that one, did we? But yeah, globally, it doesn't matter what country you're in. If you are in a language, an English-speaking language country, most likely you're using one of those fucking big tech companies that are based in the United States. And if the rules of the United States are falling under a fascistic government, in which, again, you can't say shit about this one podcaster, right? You can't talk shit about him. You can't say anything bad about him. Well, then, guess what? You're going to see a show where all of a sudden every single person, your favorite lefty streamers, are all just sitting there being like, hello and welcome. I know a lot of you are expecting me to talk about Charlie Kirk and say things like he was a white supremacist, that he was a misogynist, that, again, right now we are seeing neo-Nazis on the streets that are celebrating him and celebrating his message. I know a lot of you are expecting that of me, but I unequivocally reject all of those statements and beliefs, and I think that he was a hero, and he was a hero to many. And I think that we should venerate his image. And I believe that it's not a weird thing that the Senate suddenly decided that they are going to start having a national holiday for Charlie Kirk on October 14th. I think that's a good thing. I think that he, not just as a podcaster, should be venerated on the same level that a lot of, some of the biggest civil rights activists in the history of the United States have been venerated. And now that's a real thing, and that's the real world we live in. And October 14th is going to be Charlie Kirk Day, and that's and that's a good thing. I think that's a great thing. So yeah, I think this is good.
On free speech, dominate the media, and essentially render the First Amendment meaningless. An extreme campaign that has been on overdrive the past week. I mean, just yesterday, you had the Deputy Attorney General of these United States, the number 2 of the Department of Justice and the former criminal lawyer for the president, suggesting using criminal anti-racketeering laws, the kind of things used for mobsters, RICO statutes, to go after and prosecute protesters who heckled Donald Trump at a restaurant, who yelled at him. We're also getting new reports today. The White House plans to target a variety of left-leaning groups and nonprofits in the coming weeks, all part of a larger and more dangerous effort underway. And it follows a playbook we have seen successfully run in recent years by authoritarian strongmen in places like Hungary and Turkey and Russia. Because
who
in
Donald
those
Trump
places,
has openly
they
said
did
he
just
admires.
they didn't just criminalize speech they didn't like, though some of them did some of that. Crucially, they made it virtually impossible to see and hear examples of that speech by taking de facto control of the media landscape. In Hungary, for example, the country's oldest newspaper was suddenly shuttered after being bought by a businessman with links to far-right President Viktor Orban. According to Reporters Without Borders, Orban has used media buyouts by government-connected oligarchs to build a true media empire subject to his party's orders. The group estimates such buyouts have given Orban's party control of some 80% of Hungary's media market resources. It is a similar situation in Turkey, where, according to Reuters, the biggest media brands are controlled by companies and people close to longtime leader Recep Erdogan and his AK party, following a series of acquisitions starting in 2008. Then, of course, there's Russia, where oligarchs friendly to President Vladimir Putin control much of the media.
The problem is that Antifa is an actual thing. It's not an organized structure, so it's going to be hard to ban. But that's actually what makes it worse and more frightening, to be completely honest with you, because if he did actually attack a organized structure, say like he went after the DSA, for example, that's something in which you can very easily demonstrate whether or not someone is actually a part of the organization. What we have here is a lot more similar to McCarthyism or the Red Scare, where, again, anyone at any given time can be said to be part of Antifa, right? Like, do you absolve or do you condemn the acts of Antifa? Absolutely. I would never ever say that I'm an anti-fascist, right? And yet, here's a video clip that we have of you at one point saying that fascism's bad. So do you think fascism's bad? Because that would make you anti-fascist. Like, you only would want to do this if you're a fascist regime. You know, otherwise, just by default, you should be anti-fascist, right? I know that, like, this idea of Antifa and all this kind of shit has really gotten into people's brains. They do this whole kind of shit, like, where they think that you're part of some bloc or you're going to be wearing a mask and doing protests, but this is the reality on the ground. Hey, what's up, Maple Takes? Everyone check out Maple Takes channel. It's the calling card of fascism to target something like this. Much like, you know, the war on terror, you know, was something that was just ambiguous enough to be able to justify U.S. imperialism and their projects for a very long time, where all you had to be like, one person's terrorist, including under the eyes of the United States, is another person's freedom fighter. Oftentimes, the freedom fighters that the United States would align themselves with would turn out to be terrorists. The same people who they at one point had been partners with, say, you know, Saddam Hussein and Donald Rumsfeld and Osama bin Laden and, you know, the brave Mujahideen, like all this kind of stuff at one point are the allies of the United States because they are the enemies of my enemy or the friends of me that are going to attack my enemy or something like that. And then all of a sudden they're the terrorists. And so that switches. And so, yes, well, but we have to go and invade them because they are either terrorists or terrorist sympathizers or aligning themselves with terrorists. And again, for the Canadians who are always like, man, that's so scary, what's happening over there? We are about to pass laws right now, don't sleep on it, here in Canada, that makes it a crime to promote terrorism designated by the groups that they say are terrorists. This has been in a meeting that Mark Carney has been having with a lot of pro-Israel groups, I might add. And this is going to make it a crime to protest outside of certain religious institutions, even if those religious institutions are hosting events that are illegally selling land in the West Bank. So if you are to go out there and you are to protest it, look what's going to happen. If you want to look at an example of how this goes down, look at the UK, what happened with Palestine Action. But that group, once they suddenly made it illegal to even say that you support it, anyone who holds up a sign that says, I oppose genocide, I support Palestine Action, and you hold it up, you get arrested on the street. You can get a criminal record for that. That's fucked up. These are, again, being done under liberal governments. Liberal governments are setting this shit up as the, you know, the liberal government sets up more chess pieces for, you know, hopefully a fascistic government doesn't come along or authoritarian government doesn't come along at any given point. But if they do, boy, there'd be a lot of tools for them to use here for really, really evil shit. Well, maybe we shouldn't create the tools then. Wouldn't that be great? It just wasn't these kind of precedents where they could just take them and abuse them in such a way and manipulate them by having something like, say, what you define as terrorists at any given time used as a precursor to arrest people simply for having a sign that they hold up. That would be a very dangerous thing. So let's not set up all this shit so that, again, if a far-right government comes into power, they can then use that to go after their political enemies. Because they will. They seem to always do that. That seems to be the way this goes down.
Wartime restrictions have shut down the rest. In each of these three countries, they didn't just arrest protesters or dissident journalists or show up knocking on the door of magazines. They used government power, and sometimes through legal mechanisms, to essentially roll up all of the country's media into a friendly propaganda arm of the regime. So given that context, I want you to look around the U.S. right now and see what's been happening here right in front of our eyes. In July, the Trump FCC, that's the entity that Brendan Carr controls, approved the sale of Paramount, with it, CBS, to Skydance Media, which can control...
Whoa, George Takei is effectively getting radicalized, y'all. The libs are finally becoming lefties. Check this shit out. But bam! Hell yeah. It's okay to be Takei. That's fucking awesome. Legend of screen. Yeah, trailblazer. George Takei now effectively getting radicalized by the serfs. That's right, everybody. This is the future, all right? Because I've said that there's a lot of potential good libs, even the resistance libs. They've been sitting on this for so long and thinking the solution to all of this is if we just get back to brunch. And then there's a lot of people on the left who are like, I want to explain how fascism works, material conditions. Yeah, you can't just revert back to brunch anymore. We need an alternative. There's really two pathways forward here. There's socialism and there's barbarism. And honestly, society works so much better when we're not concentrating vast amounts of wealth into the hands of the very few. In fact, I don't know if everybody saw this, but here's a little statistic for all of you. U.S. billionaires reached a record-breaking $7.6 trillion in wealth as of September 2025. That is an increase of $4.7 trillion in less than 8 years. more of that wealth hasn't been taxed and won't be taxed under our current system. Do you feel like life is shit right now? Yeah? This is why. This is the reason. This is the reason that the world is getting shittier. They're going to distract you because, unfortunately, they own all the tech companies and they own all of the media companies. They own them all. And they have been using all of their affiliates, their conglomerates, and even some influencers and people down the pipeline to continuously push a message that distracts you from this reality. And that message is very clear. You know what's causing all the things that you're worried about? Wealth inequality, the inability to afford a home, all these problems, the loneliness epidemic, people being addicted to social media, all of these crises. Well, it's the immigrants. Immigrants are doing this. Yeah. And also, it's trans people. Trans people who are destroying the dynamics of what used to be gender identity. What was once a man, what made a masculine man is being taken away from you by some 5-year-old playing on the wrong sports team. So get mad. Get mad at refugees. Get mad at the poorest people in society. Get mad at the unhoused. The people who live on the fucking streets, who have nothing. Absolutely nothing to their name. No credit scores, because they got no credit. They got shit. They live in fucking tents. And yet, they're the ones you should be angry at. Be mad at the poorest people in society. Don't be mad at us. Please don't get mad at us. Don't get mad at us. No. Again, look, a boy is playing on a girls' sports team. Do you see that? Do you see it? Look. Yes. Okay. All right. Go. Run. Get over there. Get mad. Get really mad. Spend time. Spend energy. Spend anger and spend money trying to stop that. How dare that happen? Whoa, the family unit is being destroyed, I say. But don't ever come after the rich. Don't ever come after billionaires. Don't ever come after fucking multinational corporations. All this kind of shit. And this stuff is so effective. They are transforming legitimate concerns that I, should not be opposed to in terms of I understand why people are mad about this. People who are upset at the pharmaceutical industry. Well, that gets transformed into they're trying to control your bodies through COVID vaccines and the 5G and turn your brains into goo kind of shit. And you're like, well, no, there's a lot of problems with Big Pharma. Oh, holy shit. But now we're not mad at Big Pharma. We're mad at some weird conspiracy theory that doesn't exist. This is not real. Oh my God. But so many people are mad about that. And so many people care about that. This is wild. They're all so angry about something that is just demonstrably 100% false. We have the data on this. This is ridiculous. Don't be mad at the science itself, but instead, oh God. All right. So they're all super upset about that. Okay. Well, let's all be mad at big tech then, right? Because big tech, I mean, it's been demonstrated. There's so many whistleblowers who have shown that all of these companies are trying to manipulate that the way we think by promoting incendiary, angry posting, quotating, fighting each other. They're intentionally they apply gambling mechanics to the social media that we spend hours and hours and hours on every single day to get us more and more addicted to these platforms, and they are causing mass delusions. They are causing mass anger. They are amplifying stories that make us feel as if a single problem is a monstrously huge one. Do you know how many right-wingers were upset for days about a trans person putting up a flag in a park, and they all felt like this was a huge problem? There was one case of that in the totality of the United States. But Andy No, Tim Pool, Steven Crowder, Asmongold, all these people were talking about it, amplifying it. Libs of TikTok has it on a huge thing, and everyone is so mad. I'm so angry about this one story about a trans person who put a trans flag on a national park. It's the only time. It's the only time this has happened. But oh my God, everyone is so mad. It works. It's so effective at this stuff. But instead of being mad at big tech, what are we mad at? Speech. Freedom of speech. That's right. And the censors. And the censors of freedom of speech. And that comes from the libs. So big tech isn't the problem. No. These corporations aren't the problem. No. Don't go after them. Again, look at that. Oh, look, they're trying to censor your speech because they hate free speech. Whoa. And run after it. Yeah, good job. Okay, yeah, don't get mad at the companies, the corporations. Don't try to regulate them. Don't try to break them up. Don't in any way try to actually hold them accountable for all the fucked up shit that they're doing. Doesn't matter if it's like inciting genocide in other parts of the world. No, none of that. That's totally fine. All right, that's okay, because this is about speech. You care about freedom of speech, don't you? And that's the libs who are trying to take that away from you. Censor your speech.
By the family of pro-Trump tech billionaire named Larry Ellison. It was his son, actually, who's buying it. Now, that approval only came after Paramount paid Trump $16 million to settle the president's obvious, frivolous, ludicrous lawsuit against CBS News and 60 Minutes.
Aaron Templar, thank you for the $10. We Americans suffer from the delusion that we live in the greatest, most free, most prosperous nation on earth, rather than the continent-sized lunatic asylum. Hey, not just you. Every nation has that patriotic, jingoistic brainwashing. Canadians have their own version of it. Germans have their own version of it. You know, Brazilians have their own version of it. Everyone has it. Everyone has this idea. Their nation is the greatest nation on the earth, and you know, there's a reason for that. That's one of the important parts of nation states. Is you got to make everyone believe that you are part of a collective project that is better than the other ones, because that way you can justify having a military that shoots people if they try to get inside because they're trying to steal your stuff.
For editing interviews. And after the Ellisons agreed to eliminate DEI programs, and after they agreed to install an executive, formerly from a conservative think tank, to essentially act as a sort of ideological minder at CBS News for political bias. So they did all those things, then they got the approval for this very, very large merger. After that, CBS canceled Stephen Colbert's top-rated late-night show, which was notorious for its criticism of the sitting president. Last week, after Larry Ellison officially leapfrogged another pro-Trump billionaire, Elon Musk, to become the world's richest man, the new Paramount conglomerate made another media bid, this time for Warner Brothers Discovery, which just so happens to own CNN. So there's a possibility that they could purchase that and roll that up as well. Then yesterday, we got this news about TikTok. Perhaps you've seen it. Do you remember the Chinese-owned app that was banned as a security risk because of a bipartisan vote in both houses of Congress and signed into law by Joe Biden? And then Donald Trump just literally ignored the law while he searched for a U.S. buyer. Well, yesterday there was news of a framework of a deal. Interesting. Let's see what the deal is. Gives Americans an 80% stake in TikTok. Which Americans? Well, you'll never guess. Yes, Larry Ellison is one of them, along with far-right venture capitalist, Trump donor, Doge consultant, MAGA backer Mark Andreessen. As Talking Points memo noted, if all those deals all go through, that would mean the Murdoch family controlling Fox News, the Journal, New York Post, its other properties, Twitter, TikTok, CBS, CNN, and more owned by Elon Musk, and the Ellison family, the Washington Post owned by Jeff Bezos. The Trump administration is threatening to bring the government down.
That's monopoly. Yeah, they won. They got the board. That's it. Everyone else just has to basically, do you want to keep playing, or do you want to do the thing where I basically just have you spin and run around in circles as you just get deeper and deeper in debt and suffer more and more and more? Or just want to call it, we could call it, it's pretty clear because I got them all, right? I got Boardwalk Empire. I got the whole board. Come on. I got all the blue properties. I got all the yellow properties. I even got the green properties. Like, you're fucked. There's no way you can win. So what do you want to do? You don't want to keep playing, or you want to, okay. It's up to you.
Down on free speech and use it against dissent. It is also facilitating the sale of some of our biggest private media outlets to Trump allies, and is a very obvious attempt to consolidate power over free expression. Ben Rhodes served as Deputy National Security Advisor to President Barack Obama, author of After the Fall, The Rise of Authoritarianism in the World We've Made. David Enrich is a New York Times Deputy Investigations Editor and reporter, author of the much celebrated, well-reviewed Murder the...
I don't want to just completely depress everybody, because I know everything seems pretty dark right now. I mean, one of the big realities, or I guess one of the things that people might be ignoring right now, is that a lot of the aggressive nature, especially of the right-wing pundits and Donald Trump and the way that he is basically governing right now, it is also coming from a place of fear. Right? You have to understand, at the core of fascism, it is inherently a weak ideology. A lot of the policies that fascists and authoritarians push on the general public are disastrous for the general public. In one way or another, more and more people are starting to get wise to that. Like I said, right now, credit scores are at an all-time fucking low. They haven't been this bad since the Great Depression. The cost of food is going outrageously high in the United States. I saw the price of meat is fucking just skyrocketing right now. And there's only so long that he can hold together the bubble of the stock market as it is, because eventually parts parts of it are going to start to collapse, and this will create a chain reaction in which the very wealthy and the extreme wealthy will not want to be the last ones holding the fucking empty bags, and so they will also just suddenly pull all their money out. And then once you have a massive stock market crash, you have that entire disaster, similar to how it happens every fucking like 7 to 8 years under the capitalist system. But I digress. So because of that, a lot of it has to be done through force. That's the reason that it's being forced upon you. You might see that leftists are constantly telling people, well, if you could just read some theory, you'll understand how the world works, how labor exploitation works. Here's the books for free, go out and read, right? It's not, I am going to shoot you if you disagree with me. It's not, I'm going to imprison you if you disagree with me. It's not, hey, by the way, I'm going to make sure that you and every single one of your family members are fired from their jobs unless you agree with me. But on this end right now, we're getting the opposite of that. We're getting authoritarian, fucking forcible, telling people that you have to venerate Charlie Kirk. You cannot make fun of him, you can't make jokes about him, and you certainly can't print his own words. You can't say the words that he said out loud, and you cannot call him a far-right figure, a Nazi, a fascist, a white supremacist, any of those things. You can't even call him a misogynist. You know he was not a sexist. You can't say any of those. You can simply say that he was a conservative, that he was an inspiration, that he in many ways was a Christian holy man, and should be deified. And that's the way that we want you to have to talk about that, or you'll lose your job, or you'll go on a list, or we'll pressure a parent company to make sure that that host, that fucking annoying little liberal, gets fired from their fucking position. Yeah, no more of that. But the reality is that, again, they don't have the numbers. They know that. If they had the numbers, for example, they wouldn't be in many ways constantly panicking to make sure that everyone fucking is on board with their ideology. Because guess what? Their ideology is gross. It's fucking sick. Like, guess what? America, half the population of your country, in many ways, is being oppressed instantaneously by virtue of being a woman. Because they're trying to, again, take away women's rights, force women to give birth against their will. So boom, right there, right off the jump, half the population is under threat by the existence of this far-right regime. We can include all the other marginalized groups. But then, guess what? Once you start including the fact that they are making lives worse for the poor, well, that's the vast bulk. Like I've said this before, this is the great irony of having all of these fucking disgusting ass white supremacists, whether they be Matt Walsh or fucking, Charlie Kirk himself, all these people, they legitimately do not care about poor white people. White supremacists like Matt Walsh actually in many ways hate white people. And here's the thing, it sounds weird because aren't they trying to reinforce racial hierarchies? Aren't they trying to reinforce white supremacy? Absolutely they are, but those intersect as well with class, with capitalist hierarchies. So guess what? They want to destroy your identity. They want to take, if you're a white person, they want to take away the fact that you happen to be of Irish heritage, you happen to be of British heritage, you happen to be of Scottish heritage, Danish heritage, Finnish heritage, whatever it is, and just funnily erase all of that and be like, you're all part of this project, the white race. Yes, every single one of you. I don't care about where you're from. I don't care about your culture, your history, your ethnicity, your culture, or your language. A lot of the countries I just named have completely different cultures, languages, histories, and all that kind of stuff, traditions, you name it, but that doesn't matter. I erase all of that, and now here in the new world, you are just part of the white race, and you better be part of the good white race, as in the wealthy white race. Yes, that's it, because they also hate people who are poor. They also hate people who are having trouble making ends meet. They also hate, again, the people who talk about families all the time, working class families. They don't make life easier for people who have kids. They don't make life easier for people who have children and want to take care of them. They are effectively constantly making lives harder for every single person who isn't a billionaire. The very people who pretend to be patriots, like Donald Trump, who hugs and fucks the American flag, well, guess what? He's actively selling your entire country out to the extreme wealthy, to the billionaire class, his billionaire fucking buddies. These are fucking the elites. These are the bandits. They are robbing you all in real time while telling you they care deeply about the country and they care deeply about Christian values when they don't give a fuck about either. That guy spits on the Bible in terms of the way that he actually acts like a Christian. He doesn't know a single quote from the Bible. He's been asked, could you name one fucking quote from the Bible? All of it. I like all of it. It's all great. Every part of it. It's all good. Every part. Well, guess what? They don't even care about the freedom of speech that they've been telling all of us that they care so much about. They don't give a fuck about that either. They do not care about this shit. He will silence you. He will get you fired. He will get you, like, if you even have the audacity to print Charlie Kirk's own quotes, they'll come after you. He doesn't like jokes about himself. He can't handle jokes about himself. Donald Trump is coming after the most milquetoast libs. Come on. Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, soon to be Seth Meyers and Jimmy Fallon. These are not people calling him, but they're not people saying that he's a fucking rapist, that he's a fucking pedophile. These are people being like, Orange Man bad, am I right? The guy sure does look and smell like Cheetos. That's the Late Show. The bad man's orange, and he smells like Cheetos. And maybe Doritos. We're gonna mix it up today. And that's all it is. And that's enough for him to be fucking super mad. He gets mad at SNL. These are not the glory days of SNL. These are not the biting fucking social commentary days where they used to have sketches where white police officers would shoot every minority cast member just as that was the joke. Those were SNL sketches. Those they used to actually be subversive. They used to talk about the Iran-Contra scandal. You know, when Phil Hartman was a part of the show, like, there was actually good political commentary. Nowadays, it's Orange Man bad. He's got a funny voice. Hey, the text like that's comedy but that's enough. That's enough for him to get so mad that he's like, I want all of these people gone, all of them. Well, if that's what's fucking the bar, like, what fucking hope do the left have if he actually starts coming after leftists on tech companies? What happens if these people succeed? Because we're getting more and more articles that are coming out now that apparently the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, that snitch, he's been behind the scenes trying to get someone like Hasanabi deplatformed. That's their big goal right now. All of them are working behind the scenes to try and get Hasanabi deplatformed. And right now, a lot of these tech companies, but very select ones I might add, not the ones that actually radicalize the people into extremism, the gamer ones, so it's like Twitch, Discord, Reddit, etc. They're all being called to testify before Congress. And what happens when they get all this pressure applied by right-wingers who are like, well, we feel that there is indoctrination into left-wing radicalization that is happening specifically from your companies, from one Hassan Piker. And this is a picture of him in a maid costume. Let's put that up on the screen. Oh, sorry, we have a giant printout of it. All right, hold that up. Yep, so that's him in a maid costume. Apparently, this is him portraying himself as a waifu, if I get the term correct, right? And this is to tempt men who would otherwise be very law-abiding citizens, heterosexual males who might want to eventually find a woman to marry and make her into a proper Christian bride, to tempt them with femboy pornography, which I'm seeing here is also part of the sissy hypnotic porn, which can be very effective at transferring these men into furries. Is that correct? Now, we have evidence that apparently the person who killed and shot Charlie Kirk, they were into gay furry porn video games specifically, right? And then they were into the gay furry porn community, and as a result of that, they had been indoctrinated into far leftist radical ideology, which is obviously what we're going to associate with the furry community, and we're just going to throw the whole thing into a giant thing. So we're probably going to need to legislate this, right? Unless you guys are willing to do it on your own. But if not, we're going to have to come after you in some way if you're not willing to take serious and dramatic action to stop all of these femboys, these waifus. Let's just say we'll be safe. Blanket slate all of the LGBTQ plus people or their allies or people who are friendly to them, right? We would prefer if there was mostly straight heterosexual males who are basically the streamers on the program, and keep it apolitical, all right? Keep the politics off of Twitch. It's a danger. It has been for a very long time, right? And yeah, I know you keep saying that a lot of marginalized communities are still getting it worse than anyone on those platforms, and apparently it's really, really hard to be a woman on Twitch, or to be black on Twitch, or to be indigenous on Twitch, or any of that kind of stuff, because a whole bunch of really far-right, terrible people will drop into your chat and say all these kind of terrible things. But ultimately, the real danger here is the femboys, okay? And so that's why we got to come after this. We've seen what can happen with far leftist radicalization, and this is taking place. Like, this is only half a bit. This is legitimately what is about to start happening. And if they can succeed, by the way, because that's, again, that's the first step. The golden egg is to take down Hasanabi, because he is one of the most pro-Palestinian voices, and obviously they think that he's radicalizing too many people into leftist ideology or into believing into leftist shit. But again, the difference is that it's not just that it's coming from a person like Hasanabi, it's that, like, the two ideologies in terms of how do you recruit and radicalize people, well, in order to recruit people into an ideology that is effectively anti-humanist, which is what fascism and the far right are, Well, you're going to have to lie to them. You're going to have to take them when they're vulnerable. You're going to have to get people into dark corners of the internet. And you're going to have to sell them on conspiracies, not on reality. Because the reality, the data, this will demonstratably go left. This is why you always hear that meme, like, oh yes, the data skews left. It doesn't skew left. It's that leftists follow the data. That's the reality of it. You know that other meme you see where on one side of the screen, it's like, it seems like there's like a lot of cohesive ideas amongst the left, and on the right, it's like, we got flat earthers, we got anti-vaxxers, we got this, we got that. Well, yeah, because a lot of people on the other side are basically believing on peer-reviewed studies and data, and that is demonstrating to them a world that goes in one direction. Not that there isn't deviations, not that there isn't distrust, not that there isn't conspiracy theories. Of course, that exists on both sides of the political aisle, but it is way more prominent on the right for that very reason. And that's why you see all that kind of shit, right? And it is going to be a very, very dangerous world that we find ourselves in, unfortunately. The more and more we go down this pathway, unless people are finally willing to start recognizing the truth. There are more of us than there are of them by a monstrously huge margin. There are more workers than there are bosses. There are more renters than there are landlords. There are more working class people than there are billionaires. The billionaires are the only dangerous minority in the United States. And right now they are working in conjunction with a guy who doesn't give a fuck about his country. He wants to be an authoritarian dictator. That happens to be Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is playing all of the classics because he's unoriginal, and he obviously was getting a lot of this from fucking reading Mein Kampf, which he's admitted to. But all this kind of shit is obviously just playing out in order to benefit his billionaire buddies. It's all a ruse. It's a trick. It's a sleight of hand. It's a fugazi. It's whatever you want to call it, but that's what he is doing out in the open. And again, this is why he's going to go after immigrants. This is why he's going to go after trans people. This is why he's going to vilify them for all the problems in the world when he himself and the right are the ones causing these problems in conjunction with billionaires and capitalists. That's it. As long as more people realize that and wake up to that, guess what? More people are going to want to start to oppose this. And they have really gone too far with this one, I gotta tell you. If you are getting the wine mums, if you're getting the mums who love Jimmy Kimmel, who thought he was funny, who thought he was worth an hour of your day, if you're getting suddenly millions and millions of fucking Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel fans to suddenly be radicalized, if they're retweeting and quote tweeting the likes of me, the Serfs, you got George Takei fucking retweeting the Serfs now, yeah, a lot of people are looking for answers, and they're angry, and they're getting mad, and they're wanting to know how the fuck do we get out of the situation, because it's gross and it sucks, and the majority of people are not alt-right gripers. They're not 4chan fucking neo-reactionaries. They're just not. This is one of the reasons why they've had to try and act and be louder than they truly are. Have you seen the Elon Musk was retweeting today? Tim Pool put out this like graph where he's like, they're trying to tell us that only the right are responsible for the majority of the violence. And it's like, every data point shows that. The Cato Institute is not left-wing at all, by the way. But here's their own data showing, yes, the majority of political violence comes from right-wing extremism. Okay, well, I've got a new chart that I've made with absolutely no sources whatsoever. But if you see, I've got the blue, super high. This is political violence being committed by Democrats in democratic states. As in the people who are in democratic states. I'm going to define, if the state is blue, that you are in fact a Democrat. And so all the violence that takes place in that state, whether it be any crime whatsoever, that's Democratic crime. And here's the lower end, Republican crime. And so there you go. And you just put it out there. And then, of course, it got quote tweeted by Elon fucking Musk, who brought tens of thousands of people to share it and look at it. But it looks like PragerU. It is literally like a fucking PragerU graph. Hold on, I'll pull it up. Like it's even more ridiculous than you could imagine. But it's because facts, data, all that kind of stuff does not matter. They don't give a fucking. They do not care about that. Here it is. This is what violent rates look like depending on the political party. How fucking weird am I, right? When you get rid of the fringe wackos and count crime by party control, it looks a lot different. This is not what political violence is, and also, there's nothing here. You're not telling me which is being represented. Combined violence rates by party, 2023. Total violence rates, sum of cities. So for the Democrats, over 20,000. Really bad, Democrats. You fucked up. You fucked up. But then if you look on the right, look how peaceful the Republicans are, just 858. So I think it's pretty clear. Yeah. Shame on you, libs. Disgusting creatures, lying to the world. We can see it as clear as day right here. And Elon Musk himself, the world's richest human, quote tweeted this and was like, wow, concerning. Whoa. So it has to be true. It's all real. I wish this was a joke. It's not. I mean, right now, I don't have time to play it because we're going to do Leftist Mafia soon. But if you haven't noticed, Steven Crowder is also actively, basically trying to do a reverse Uno incitement to violence, where he's like, if you come to one of my shows, if you show up to my show, Matt Walsh's show, Nick Fuente's show, any of us, and you're coming there to do violence, I want you to know you are going to get shot. I'm going to kill you. You're going to die. And then it's like, what? That's extremely aggressive. Wait, sorry, what happened to all the tone down the temperature? What happened to only the left are the radicals? Only the left are the party of violence? The majority, by the way, when you look at the actual data that comes from right-wing institutions like the Cato Institute that have shown that the majority of violence, political violence, is committed by almost, entirely right-wingers. The left-wing examples are typically not directed towards human beings. It's usually violence towards buildings, environmental protests, of which they can, try to blow up buildings, try to blow up machinery that is, trying to excavate trees, stuff of that nature. Like a lot of the political violence done by the left in those examples that they have, there's much less examples of them actually targeting and assassinating human beings amongst the left-wing extremist examples that are provided. I know one of the ones that you can point towards, I think that is a very recent memory, was someone who had recently killed two, I think, Israeli, I think there were consulate members, one of whom wasn't Jewish, even though it was, labeled as a hate crime. But they were both Israeli, but that was done by a person who had been, openly stating that they were doing it for Palestinian resistance means. So there's a clear-cut example that you can point towards, someone who's, again, attacking two people specifically for that reason. Because, again, if you're being honest about the data, I want to be honest about the data, but that, again, is just like a blip in the amount of right-wing extremism in terms of the actual violence committed towards individuals, assassinations, bombings, destruction, terrorism. It's done almost exclusively by the right. That's where it takes place.
That place and picking up the microphone, I get it. It's very touching. People need to know that there are still crosshairs on that microphone, and people need to take it seriously. So when people say that I'm being irresponsible, I am doing the most responsible thing I can think to do in trying to right maybe some errors, mistakes on my part. I told people it was dangerous. I didn't tell them the entire extent. And I hope people know and take it seriously. And the only thing that's going to curb it is for the left to be afraid to even think of it.
Since the assassination of...
Weird, because, that same argument, the only thing that's going to stop bad guys, that's what they think are the bad guys, the left. But the only thing that's going to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Hasn't turned out to be true at all. Hasn't worked out yet. Really hasn't. In fact, once you have situations in which there's vast amounts of chaos, oftentimes it's really difficult for even well-trained police officers or tactical units to be able to discern between the bad guys and the good guys. This is one of the dangers of having a very heavily armed population of people, and with very little gun training in a lot of cases, running around thinking that they're all cowboys, thinking that they're all heroes, thinking that they're all G.I. Joes, thinking that at any given time, well, I could be the one to be the hero of the moment, so I'm going to start shooting. And then it's like, well, who are you going to shoot? Also, the problem with having a very, very intense gun culture, because, when it comes to the shooter of Charlie Kirk, as more information comes out, it's becoming more and more clear that this is someone who's very difficult to pinpoint ideologically in either direction. Very, very pro-gun, very, very pro-Second Amendment, coming from a MAGA family of registered Republican voters, coming from a family of ex-cops, coming from a family of ex-Marine, coming from a family of preachers, heavily religious, Mormon, while at the same time was pro-gay and pro-trans rights, according to friends, according to the testimony, according to the logs, may have had a partner who if that partner, by the way, was a trans woman, he was in a heterosexual relationship. Sorry to break that to you righties, but was in a partner with someone who was LGBTQ+. But once again, the person who was LGBTQ+ was one of the heroes of the story, who, when they realized that this was the shooter, had actually delivered all this information, cooperated heavily with the police. That's the facts, all right? Like, it doesn't matter what direction you want to go in. I know that there are right-wing conspiracy theorists like, Candace Owens, who want to tell everybody that this was actually the actions perhaps of some kind of, someone coordinating or collaborating with Israel. I'm just asking questions. I'm not saying that this was, in fact, Israelis or Mossad or anything. I'm just saying that it is kind of suspicious that, Charlie Kirk was having his doubts in many ways about how he wanted to position himself in relation to talking about the relationship between the U.S. and Israel, and then this happens. So I'm just going to put that out there. Well, that's the right-wing conspiracy theories. And a lot of people on the left, including myself, were pointing towards, well, a lot of the evidence here was pointing towards this could be a far-right Groyper, someone part of the Groyper community who was obviously going to be very aggressively against Charlie Kirk. But once more information came out, guess what the difference between those two groups was? I have updated my understanding of the topic because more evidence has now been presented. That's just, again, the way things work. As much as it would be more convenient, obviously, for there to be a narrative in which this individual was just a definitively far-right individual who's a fan of Nick Fuentes, it turns out that this is someone who's very hard to pinpoint ideologically, and no one has done better reporting on that than Ken Klippenstein, who again released the actual Discord logs for everybody to read, so you can see that they were not heavily polarized politically in either the left-wing or the right-wing direction, that this was a highly apolitical Discord group that he was a part of with his friends, that they were really into internet memes, video game culture, and that kind of stuff, and as a result of that, when the Utah State filing came out and the paperwork came out and then the conversation, the leaked text came out, again, what that demonstrated was it absolves the trans community in this question from potentially being implicated, even if the shooter was, or it turned out to be trans, which they weren't. Cis white male, once again, cis white male, sorry to break it to everybody, but even if that was the case, if it turned out this was a trans person, were they committing the shooting on behalf of trans ideology, as you always hear? Were they committing the shooting specifically to be able to kill cis people as part of some manifesto that said that they were trying to bring about the cis genocide or something like that? No, even in the cases of like trans shooters, they don't have that, right? Like whenever they say, well, this is because of the radicalization that happens to trans people, all this kind of stuff, well, then you'd have to show and demonstrate that they were coming after people like me, like cis people. They were trying to kill all of us, and that was part of what the manifesto showed. It doesn't. Because first off, there's no such thing as trans ideology. There's people who are misidentified at birth, and then that's basically how we determine if someone is in fact trans, because later on they realize that they were not a male or a female or either. That's just what a trans person is. It's why you don't see like a lot of cases of gay ideology, right? Like someone who is a gay mass shooter who is suddenly trying to kill all the straights, and it's just like, well, because of again my gay ideology and my love of being gay, I've decided that the only effective way to make it good for me to be super gay is to get rid of all the straights, because then only gays will be left, and then the gay people can be free. So I will get rid of all the gays, because again, it wouldn't work. Even if you were effective at doing that, if you could purge the world of the straights, there would be more straight people eventually, because when you would have more children, you would find out that, yeah, guess what? When the bisexual couples or the pansexual couples had kids, there would be straight kids. And again, because it's just, humanity's a spectrum. It's diverse. That's just how all of this works.
So thank you so much to our patrons for making this show possible. We could not fund it without you. And if you want to join, please check out patreon.com/theserfs to unlock bonus episodes, uncensored content, and all the good stuff. Thanks to Anna Loves Riley, Addercap, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hegbard Salim, Multimondi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demmel, Tigwick, and Words Greenwood.